Hello, my name is Thomas. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I discuss my near-death experience, the things I learned, and the things I think you should know. So this is part two of my near-death experience story. Where I last left off, I was in a black void in front of this pink swirling orb or pink swirling mass that I understood to be the unconditional love of the Creator. So this was the first time that I had really felt connected to God, and I had spent my life up to that point, wondering why I didn't feel God's love and why my prayers weren't being answered and wondering why my relationships weren't working out. So on the other side, your emotions are the best way I can put it is 1,000 times anything you would feel here. But again, there aren't any words to really describe the other side. It's so much more real than real. And this is when I started to understand that Sarah, my guardian angel, was the other half of my soul. And I had never really heard of twin flames. I had heard of soulmates, but I had no understanding of what that meant. And I had always, wondered why my relationships hadn't worked out, if I was just picking, the wrong women or it was something that I was doing. But I didn't understand unconditional love until that point. And it took me feeling, the unconditional love of not only Sarah, but of God to really understand what it's all about. And it's taken a lot of work since my near-death experience to really still understand unconditional love. But so the way I understand it is that when God created Adam, Adam had one soul, and Adam got lonely. So this is Adam's soul. And when Adam got lonely, he created Eve. And to do that, God split Adam's soul into two. And so it's that longing for love of the other half of our soul that really drives us here in life. It drives our relationships. It drives us to seek out love. But so when we meet the other half of our soul, or some people call it your twin flame, it's the reunion of your soul, and that is what is God, is the only way I can put it. But since seeing this pink swirling mass of love and understanding that Sarah is who I'm meant to be with, and the reason why my relationships weren't working out is because I was meant for something bigger. I was meant for a literal angel. And so I don't feel lonely anymore, and I understand unconditional love. And even for challenging people, I'm able to send them, my love as well. And so now I understand that, Sarah is always with me. And in my near-death experience, there were no words. It was all, I guess you would put it as telepathic communication. And at first I was wondering, why am I not hearing Sarah talking to me anymore? But then I came to realize, well, why would I be hearing her, through my ears when it was all telepathic on the other side? Wouldn't it be the same here? So I often wonder why I came back here, but I have to remind myself that I did so because I didn't want to die the way I was going to die. I didn't want to leave that mess for my mother. But also, it was a decision that Sarah and I made together to come back here to share what I learned and to share our love with humanity. So we're working on figuring out how to have a relationship together here on Earth because, we can't have a physical relationship. She's in God's care right now. So it's not someone that I'm going to meet here on Earth, but how we are having a relationship is, through deep meditation, I suddenly find myself with Sarah in these celestial landscapes. One of the first places that I met up with her in deep meditation was this moonlit beach, and in front of me was this giant gray moon with dark gray clouds, streaks of clouds, and it was lighting up this landscape of steep, craggy mountainsides that were framing this gently lapping ocean on this black pebble beach. And there was lush vegetation, like tropical vegetation, behind me. And when I looked to my left, there was Sarah waiting for me to see her, and she had a fire lit, and we were able to dance and embrace and enjoy each other's company. But we also meet up in this place, and I constantly find myself back here. It's like this, I guess, bamboo hut, very simple, candle lit, and then here on Earth, we meet up through, psychic channeling. And I've learned that all humans are psychic. It's just a muscle you have to build. But first, you have to get over that lens that we see, that culture, that lens of culture and society that tells us that, if you're psychic, you're crazy, or you're not, you're weird. So that was something that I had to get over. But also, I know she's with me through angel numbers that I see, through synchronicity. I've started doing tarot, and then music and poems that'll play on my Google Hub, which is, powered by artificial intelligence. So it's kind of interesting, the stuff that plays on there and how much it lines up with what I'm thinking. And especially when I'm thinking about Sarah, I'll get a love song or a love poem, even poems with my name in it. So one of them is a good play that talks about Sarah and I being kids and playing with couch cushions and going sailing, and it's really pretty interesting. I suggest you look it up. So I was back in this black void of nothingness, and there was this dark sea and completely calm in every direction. And I remember being shown DNA on a microscopic level, and another component, I call it a third component to DNA, that is yet to be discovered, and it has to do with sound and infrasound. But I was also shown the neuronal gap, the space in between nerves where our neurochemistry kind of takes place, and something having to do with sound as well there. And at the same time all this was going on, I was reliving some of the best times of my life before I got sick at 18, with a really serious rare stem cell disease that would later develop into cancer. But I was reliving, past relationships, the time when I was doing kung fu, playing football, all the things that I had enjoyed prior to getting sick. And the next thing that I know is I am waking up suddenly in a desert scene, and there's a cliff in front of me and ledges behind me, and I suddenly realized that this was Jesus's crucifixion. And I was right in front of Jesus on the cross. And I remember him suddenly seeing me, and the look of shock and pain and fatigue in his eyes really stayed with me. And he had these really deep green eyes that kind of saw through your soul, I guess. So maybe he was actually seeing me back in the time of Christ. I'm not really sure. And the Gnostics also tell the story that it was actually Jesus's twin brother, Thomas the Apostle. And you can choose to believe in this or not, but the Gnostics say that it was actually Thomas that was crucified because it was his twin, and Thomas thought, well, we could fool people into the Jews into believing that I'm Jesus, and Jesus, you can go about your work and helping people. So the look of pain and tiredness and fatigue in his eyes took me a long time to get over, and also the shock. Just the look in his eyes still is with me. And every time I would think of it, I would just break down to tears. And sometimes I still do. But his skin tone was something that I don't really recognize. I don't. It was kind of like a cross between African descent and Middle Eastern descent, I guess, but also something else. I haven't really seen anything similar portrayed in art, even in medieval art. Um, but so it's kind of interesting to think about, what descent is Jesus, and is it even of this earth? So after witnessing Jesus's crucifixion, I suddenly found myself back in space with Sarah and my guardian angels, and we were traveling towards heaven. And I started hearing this music, and I understood it to be coming from God. And it was kind of like a honing beacon that we followed. But I remember flying over this rolling tan landscape, rolling hills, and it was really tan, and we flew over, and I was disembodied at this point, but I still had very much a sense of self, while feeling connected to all that is and to God. But there were these villages and communities kind of sparsely populating this rolling tan hillscape, and it reminds me of the hills outside of Palo Alto and Vallejo in Northern California. That's the closest that I can compare it to. So the next thing that happened was I was suddenly in heaven, and I was seated on this throne, and it was a tall throne, and it was metallic, not gold, but something like titanium. And I was seated to the left of Jesus, but Jesus wasn't there. I understood he was there in heaven, but he was not on his throne at the time. And I remember it was like all of heaven was partying and celebrating my arrival, and singing songs, and harp music was playing, but also trumpets and drums, and it was a huge celebration that I was there. And since my near-death experience, I've felt really undeserving, and I've wondered why I found myself on a throne. And I wonder if it has something to do with my name Thomas, and that archetype going back to Didymus Thomas, the Apostle Thomas. But so all of heaven was partying and celebrating my arrival, and heaven was really clad with gold. Everything was built of gold, and an unfamiliar marble crystalline-like material, these large meter square bricks or tiles building everything. And I remember being really embarrassed because of the clothes I was wearing during my near-death experience. It was just, unwashed jeans and flannel from the bottom of my hamper probably. But I was unshowered, and I remember feeling really bad that I didn't have a gift to give to God. And I remember being told, well, no one has a gift to give to God. And any gift that you would give him would be the utilization of the gifts that he had given you here on earth. So the next thing that I remember was waiting in line with Sarah. I was afraid for her to leave me at any time. I was like, stay with me, don't leave me. And I was waiting in line to see Jesus. And I had to meet with him in private. And I remember, begging Sarah to come in with me, but her telling me, no, this is something you have to do in private. So in the next video, I will talk about meeting with Jesus in private, Stephen Hawking, and the council that oversees humanity. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe because it provides reassurance that I'm on the right track and that I'm helping people. So much love and joy. Namaste.